Hi, I'm Julie Moses, founder of the Snap Maven photography community. I asked my friend Cynthia Dawson of Cynthia Dawson Photography, as well as co-founder of the Gold Hope Project, to sit down with me for a little conversation. In addition to highlighting that September is Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month, I wanted to use the opportunity to give you all a preview of what you can expect from the new Snap Maven. Welcome to the new Snap Maven. Technically, we are not relaunching until October, but September is a really important month. Interviews with amazing photographers on Tuesday Talks is just one aspect you can look forward to. Without further ado, let's get to the interview. So we are here with Cynthia Dawson, and Cynthia Dawson, I've actually known you for, Facebook friends for quite a long time, because Snap Maven goes back to at least 2013, I think, something like that. So, and you were one of my, it had to have been in the first 6 months at least, somewhere along that of being a guest host and all that stuff. So I've been aware of you for a long time. So, and I asked you to be a guest specifically because it's September. So, and why is that important, Cynthia?
Well, hi. I'm just, I know. So September is important to me because it's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And I am also the president for the Gold Hope Project, which provides free portrait sessions for pediatric cancer patients. Along with, and just recently in the last year, we've been able to start funding research for pediatric brain tumor research. And that's important to me because my daughter actually passed away from a brain tumor when she was 5. So it definitely is close to my heart and something that I'm really excited to be able to give back to the community in this way while bringing awareness to our children who are going through something that no parent should ever have to watch their child go through.
No, I agree. And I'm with you there. I am also, my son, he's about to turn 18, but when he was 9, he was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. September is really important as well for me. And I want everybody to know about the Gold Hope Project because it's such an important thing. And every day I point out to my husband, look, there's another little one. Isn't this amazing? Not even amazing. It's so disheartening to see every single day you guys put up a new fighter. I mean, it's amazing that they're fighting, but it's amazing that there's so many. And you guys barely touch the surface. I mean, if you're putting 1 or 2 a day, it's something like 10,000 cases a year right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact statistics. I think it's close to 16,000 a year.
You go to different sources and you get different numbers.
Yeah, I think it's hard to keep track of an exact number. But no, you're right. And it is amazing, that we can share their stories in the way that we are. Because I know when Ava was sick, I just wanted people to be aware that this was happening. And I felt like before she was diagnosed, I think everyone's seen the commercials on TV of the kids with cancer. And it's such a different perception of what the kids are going through and how many are going through it. So when she got sick, I just wanted people to hear our story and know. Because if you looked at her, you wouldn't think she was sick. And I think that's a big misconception people have, is that all kids with cancer are bald or they kind of look a certain way. And that's not the case if you just scroll through the Gold Hope Project's Facebook page. They look like a, quote, healthy child. Like some of them do look, are bald, but Ava she didn't look sick until it was longer in her journey. So I feel like I just wanted people to know. And I think a lot of parents are that way. Like they just want to share their story and what they're going through and what their kids have been through.
Yeah, and stories are so powerful. And so stories are incredibly important and incredibly powerful. And every person deserves to have their story told. And these fighters, especially, that much more. We need to value them here while we have them and just do all that we can to make sure they stay here as long as possible, because every moment they're here makes an impact on this world. I know that I just saw this morning, I shared it, that you are doing an auction.
Yes.
How long is that going on?
It will go on for 2 weeks. I think the 24th is the last day to bid on items. So yeah, it's our first auction, and we've been talking about doing one for such a long time, but things finally fell together so we could do it this September. And all proceeds from the auction will be going to benefit DIPG DIPG research. So we're pretty excited about that.
And that's a really, that one, it's very underfunded too, because it seems like it's not as rare as it used to be.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if you just maybe after you understand what it is, you pay more attention to people who are diagnosed with that type of care. But I agree, it does seem that way. It seems like there's more stories of kids with that brain tumor. I don't know if the statistics are still the same with how many are being diagnosed with it. It is very rare though. When Ava was sick, it was about 200 kids a year. So it is very rare compared to the other types of brain tumors. But researchers really do think if they can find a way to cure that DIPG, that it could lead to medical advancements in all brain cancer, which, given the aggressive nature of that type of tumor, is probably true. So
let me segue just a little bit and talk about another commonality that we have. We're both homeschoolers,
right?
And you're still homeschooling, right?
I am, yes. I just started homeschooling my youngest last week. So
how is your youngest old enough?
My middle. I'm sorry, my middle.
How is your youngest old enough? Your baby's born. Wait a second.
I know. He's turning 5 next month, so it's time for him to join his sister in school.
Yeah, that happens way too fast. And so this is because I'm assuming, since I think she's the same age as my daughter.
She's 9.
She's 9, yeah. So yeah, my Ember is 9 as well. So 4th grade?
Yeah.
Okay, so this would be your 5th year homeschooling?
Yeah. Wow, yeah.
I know. It takes a minute to figure it out. I think I figured out because I started homeschooling when he was 21-year-old, was in kindergarten. So I think this is like my 15th year of homeschooling.
Wow.
So because people ask, well, do you ever quit doubting yourself if you're doing the right thing or if you're doing it the right way? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
You're always constantly doubting yourself, even after 15 years.
Right.
But so how do you balance? I mean, that's a big buzzword too right now. It's like life-work balance and everything. How do you balance all the things that you do? Because you've got Gold Hope Project, you've got your actual photography career, and you're photographing newborns on other people's schedules. So how do you manage to make that all work?
So I feel like there isn't a balance. So I freely admit, I can be stressed out a lot of the times with everything that has to get done. But at the same time, it's a matter of prioritizing what is most important. And my kids are most important. So I usually try to start with them first. So if I have a pretty set schedule, that does help with accomplishing everything that needs to get done. But I really don't have a balance. Like, I have a little baby, going to be 9 months in a couple weeks. And that is really hard to do all the things that I'm supposed to do, the baby. So it's a matter of working around the baby schedule, and then really buckling down when he naps to do my computer work, which is for the Gold Hope Project if I have to edit a session or whatever else that may be. And then of course adding in, for my fun editing too, like I want to get that done. So I try really hard Monday through Friday to keep a pretty set schedule of doing homeschool in the morning, and then doing my work stuff when the baby naps. But I don't feel like there's a really good balance. I feel like I'm always behind and that, I could be doing more. Like, the to-do list doesn't get done all day, so it's just, I was talking to a friend about this, and they do something called reverse planning, where instead of making a to-do list, you go back and kind of see the things you accomplished for the day. And they were just raving that the change in the mindset was huge for them.
It's actually something I totally recommend to new homeschoolers, because everybody, as they come in, they're trying to get this preconceived idea, this list of all the things that I have to get done, and they have no clue how much they're actually getting done. And when they stop to do that, because even the list that I'll make for my daughter to say, okay, this is the stuff we got to get done, and it fills up the whole whiteboard, and it's like, wow, that's, if you count every little thing, like taking a bath, brushing your teeth, making your bed, all these things add up to this time that you spent, all these things that you've gotten done, but it doesn't feel like you got anything done.
Right.
But you did. And so you have to, you totally have to change your perspective. And then also, we don't give ourselves credit for how much of these tiny things are impactful. because like just reading for a half hour, reading out loud to your kids for a half hour has so much more impact than 5 worksheets.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So, and same things, for certain business. I haven't finished it yet, but I started listening to, I do a lot of audiobooks because I don't have time to just sit down in one place and read. So, so I'm listening to an audiobook, doing 2 or 3 other things. And I'm really bad about trying to multitask. It's actually impossible, but I keep trying for some reason. And so anyway, this book, it's called The One Thing. So of course I like to joke because it's like I was reading 2 other books at the same time of this book called The One Thing. And but I've been trying to really put this into practice because you've got to kind of just prune away that other stuff. And even if you're switching back and forth between different things, is just to kind of focus on one thing at a time. Don't worry about the 5 other things that you've got to get done. So I love to hear how other people are handling it or not.
I used to think like, oh, I can multitask and do 20 things in one day. But I really did find that like, it's really hard for me, especially to shift my mindset from the Gold Hope Project to my business. So I have to basically pick one day and I'll do my business stuff or I'll do Gold Hope Project stuff. I can't like put it together, and my brain doesn't focus that way. Now that I've learned that, it does make accomplishing things much easier when I have, the uninterrupted time to do it. But,
I know it's a constant fight though, because I have to constantly fight my natural tendency to do that. Anyway, let me get back to some actual questions. So I think we were kind of covering this a little bit. So what are your biggest challenges in, just in your whole life, not just with photography, but just living? What are...
So I think right now it's my baby isn't sleeping well. So
9 months sleep regression, huh?
No, he never slept. So he wakes up, pretty consistently through the night. And so that's tough. And some nights he wants to wake up and be awake, and that makes it hard the next day, when I'm working with the kids, trying to get their school done or trying to meet a deadline or, whatever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you actually slept, because it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of time left for that. But he's helping you. He's saying, hey, Mommy, it's time to get up and work.
I know. And that was this morning at 5. I was like, do I just get up and, get a jump start on things instead of trying to fight him back to sleep and all the other stuff. So I think that has made it challenging. I'm trying to remember, like, he will sleep at some point, and then I'll sleep and things will get easier as he gets a little older. And he's still, having 3 others before him, like, I know it does go quickly. It's such a cliche, but it's the truth. So I'm trying to soak it in and just be like, in a year from now, he's not going to be doing this, just trying to live in the moment with him and just, because we go back and forth if he'll be our last or not. So I don't want to look back and be like, oh, we're not going to have any more, and just feel regret.
And so, so we've been talking about this, about, managing it all, but what would your best advice be about how to manage it all without going crazy specifically?
Without going crazy. I would say to find a schedule that works for you. If you're a working at home mom, which I think a lot of photographers need.
They are, which is why, specifically this interview for Snap Maven, I know so many are trying to do that, and now a lot of them are trying to homeschool as well. And that we're going to see more and more numbers because the movement continues to rise.
I think so. So I think a schedule like that really, really helps me to know what we're doing and to pick something for the day that you want. Just one thing. Don't pick 20 things, one thing that you can get done in that, whether that's a blog post or editing a gallery, whatever it is, work-wise. And then if you have something, for your home that you need to get done, pick one thing for your home. And I think that's a good way to keep that balance going. So, you're not focusing all your attention at your computer while your house is being torn apart by your kids, so you can kind of try to get that balance between the two. That's what works for me. So if I can know what I'm doing for the day, and also I plan out the week beforehand. So I have a couple of tasks that I want to get done that week. And then so if I have some free time where I finished one thing, I can look ahead and kind of be like, oh, well, I can work on this for the next 20 minutes while the kids are reading or playing or whatever. So I think that's really good advice. And it's a really profound, that concept of the one thing. And it's so simple, but it's so hard for us to grasp, especially because we've been raised as women to think, hey, we're multitasking, and that's the only way anything gets done. And there's like the stereotype that women with
with moms especially, is like, we're doing 20 things, and we never get even one thing done. And dad's over there, he's got one thing done for the day, and he's ahead of us because he focused on one thing. And
Right.
so we can definitely take a lesson from that of try to narrow down and work on that one thing as opposed to worrying about 50. So what keeps you've been doing photography for a long time now. How long have you been doing it?
So I started learning manual mode actually when Mila was like 6 months old, and so she's 9.5, so 9 years now pretty much. But I haven't had a business that whole time, and hasn't been like, I think I've been in business for about 6 years off and on between a move and the babies and all of that. So
now, and were you a military wife as well? Did I get that?
Yes. So my husband retired in 2013. So for a while.
There's another notch up for you in my list of honor, because for military moms, military wives, you're made of steel. I just have so much respect for you guys.
Well, thank you. It was definitely an experience, and he was really proud to be in the military. So when he had to retire, it was kind of, a little bittersweet for him, and he retired early, so it wasn't something he was really prepared for. It kind of came on really fast, and so I miss the community of it. I feel like the military community is so special, and the women in that community are amazing. So yeah, it was a good time in our lives when we were
and I'm sure you learned a few things about organization and structure in that, right?
You would think so, but that would be more my husband, because he was, he had the day-to-day experience with that. But we did have a few talks. I am not one of your soldiers, so don't treat me like that, a soldier, which is kind of, I think it's a running joke sometimes with us. So yeah.
We all go through ruts. I know I do. I even, when I wrote my book, I specifically addressed it, going through ruts. I've been kind of in one for a long time, and not so much because I don't love photography, but just because I've got so many other things going on. It's very easy to push that one aside for now. But if somebody calls me up and to do a paid session, then the motivation's there. But in terms of just doing it for myself, I haven't been as motivated to do it. Teaching takes a lot out of me. I've been doing a lot of teaching. Even my own personal artwork, I don't do as much if it's not related to teaching, because I'm constantly looking at, is this lesson or this project, is this something I can teach, as opposed to something I can work on for myself. Lately, I've been doing a lot of crocheting for myself personally, just because the monotony of it is meditative. Mm-hmm. So, and photography can be that way. Sometimes with editing, you get in a flow, you feel really good about it. But what advice do you have for those who are in a rut? And how do you keep yourself motivated to stay out of those ruts?
It's really hard, because I think you're right. Like, when photography is such a creative thing, and when your mind can't rest to feed the creativity, I think that's when I experience my ruts, is either when my mind is going too fast, or I have too much on my plate, or I'm just overwhelmed with life, So I was in a rut when I was pregnant, and I think I had to just take a step back and kind of regroup and realize, I needed a rest. And I think that's okay. I think sometimes in our culture, we are all about the go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. And we have to remember our brain needs a rest, our body needs a rest, and that's okay. Take some time, rest. What also helped me when I go through them is I have a list of why I photograph, why, like the feeling it gives me, the memories for my kids, it's real simple. It's nothing like huge.
I love that, actually, of returning to your why.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever done that exercise. I need to.
So I literally had it on a note on my computer when I was deep in this rut, and I would stare at it and I would read it a couple times a day. And I think that helped too, because it helped push me back to why I'm passionate about photography, what I love about it. And then also I think it helps too if you can make another, I know you're a list person, so maybe this will resonate with you too, but keep a running list of pictures you want to take or things you want to do. And then when you're feeling like your creativity isn't there, like you have a whole list of things that you've already thought about that maybe you could execute one of those ideas, and kind of that might spark something inside of you again too. So I think that the why list and like my idea list of things I want to photograph really helped pull me out. And also, like, don't downplay the rest, because that's important too.
So what do you shoot with? What's your gear?
So I have Nikon. I have a 750, and then I have my favorite lens right now is my 50 millimeter. I feel like it's so versatile. But I do also love my 35 that's the Sigma 35. And then I use my 85 sometimes, but not really. And then I also have a 24 millimeter, which I haven't used in a really long time. I should probably.
I fell in love with I got a 14 millimeter to do some real estate shots. I don't use it for real estate anymore. I actually use it for portrait. I love that thing. It's a manual lens, so it can be really tricky to dial in focus. Same thing with my lens baby. But I love that look. You center that person, and it just gives you this great thing. Of course, you can also get some real weird stuff with it if you're not careful. But yeah, I am drawn toward something that looks a little different.
Yeah.
So I'm loving my 14 millimeter. But I usually will go back. I kind of fall back on my 28 over again. I'm a Canon shooter, so yeah, that 28 millimeter. I wish I had some L lenses, but I don't.
Yeah, they're really nice, but yeah.
Someday. No. Actually, I'm amazed at what you can do with the lower end equipment, really. So it's who's using the equipment. I mean, the equipment, there is, a point where your equipment can hold you back, but at the same time, you saw Chase Jarvis use like a Lego camera.
Yeah.
Go out and shoot all this great stuff. So ultimately, it comes down to the intentionality behind the person behind the camera.
Right. I agree. I mean, I would love to get a new lens. I really think a 24-70 would be amazing, especially with kids. And like, it's so hard to always think ahead to what the composition you want. And then afterwards, you're like, oh shoot, I should have shot it that way. And then I was too far away or too close. Or
yeah, I've shot events, and I have two bodies now. I have a lower end Rebel, and then my 60. And so I try to keep one focal length on one, and then another focal length on the other one. Of course, it's a little tricky because one's a crop sensor and one's a full size sensor. But I know that when I just had one, I was, with being a primarily prime shooter, I was constantly changing my lens. So it's nice to have something that's the variable focal length when you're in the midst of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I would love a 24-70 as well.
Yeah.
So I had asked you this, so hopefully you got a chance to think about it. Who are your three photography icons? Who are the greats that inspire you?
So I think that's so hard, because I think a lot of people, I'm personally inspired by so many people, but I love, it's just like a simple, I think what really sparked my love for like the candid photography was a book by Time Light, and it was just called Photojournalism, and it was like all these incredible pictures throughout history, and I think a lot of them were some well-known, some not so well-known, and so it's more like the black and white era film photography, street photography genre. And I wish I could remember some images that were in that, but it was very like Vivian Meyer-esque kind of.
Well, it is visual people. It's the picture that made an impact. It's not necessarily the name that was attached to it.
Right.
So I get that, and we internalize that, and we can't necessarily tell you why that particular image impacted us the way it did. It just did.
Right, exactly. So like that book, I still go back to sometimes when I'm like looking for inspiration in that way. And I think that's one of the reasons why black and white photography was such a big part of my early passion. Like I love, not that I don't love it now, but I just have like a different love for it than I did in the beginning.
I do too. I'm actually the way I've set up I'm teaching high schoolers photography, and the way I set it up is first semester we're doing all black and white, and then second semester we'll do color. And the reason is because I want them to see the story, and I want them to see the shapes, and I want them to see the light before we worry about color. Because color, you can use it in the service of those things, but it can also become a big distraction. And if you don't if you're not solid on those three other things, the shapes and the lines and the light, then you can just get lost with the color. So so I'm with you that I would shoot everything in black and white if I could, even though I'm kind of known for my color, the bright color, but I love black and white, and I love dramatic black and white. If it doesn't go all the way black to all the way light somewhere in there, it's not no good for me. So
I agree. I love a dramatic black and white, like that's, but I really admire, because I think a lot of the older images have more of the mid-range where it's really, and lots of gray. And I think that is such a beautiful style. It's not my taste, but I do love admiring it. And I think it definitely has a place because it's really classic and clean and, but I'm with you. I love like the dark black and white.
So what do you like most? Got to talk about you here for a second. What do you like most about your own work?
So it's so hard. Like
I know it's kind of going across that, because we're all very ready to say what we don't like about it, or the insecurity that we as creatives have. And I know it took me a long time to get used to being able to take a critique, especially without trying to give a motivation, but trying to give an excuse for why my image was like that. It was just like, well, this is what I was trying to do. Well, it didn't come across that way. So, and being able to internalize that and not take it as as a personal affront. So that's part of what I teach too, is how to give a good critique. That's kind of what Snap Maven started as too. Is like, okay, let's learn how to make or look at the best in this, and then also how we can improve from here.
Right.
So
I think my work, it's so hard to talk about like positive, but I'll try. So I love my use of light. I feel like I like to play with that. I like to experiment. I'm loving color, and I feel like that's coming across more.
Well, I really love your color palette and just where you're at with it.
Thank you.
I've watched you for a while, so I've seen your style change a little bit over the years. I really love where you're at now.
I think so. Going back to like the deep black and white, I feel like that translates into a bold color, like a bold and rich colors. And I think that's something that I really like about my work. And then there's also the connection. Like I like having the connection with my kids behind the camera and showing that in photos. Like I feel like that's something really special that moms give to their kids when they are photographing them, is you have that special bond, and no one can take a picture of your kids quite like you can, even if they give you a hard time most of the time.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't get Ember in front of the camera very often anymore. She's going through that stage unless I bribe her somehow. And the bribes, of course, have gotten steeper in terms of cost these days. But no, I definitely think that, because not that she's had that many other photographers besides me, but anyone else taking a photo, it just doesn't, because I'll sit there and I'll do the don't smile, and it's just that connection you have with your own child just makes it work.
Right.
And I mean, even me trying that with somebody else's kid, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's just not quite the same. So being I had read once or seen something somewhere that the moms in the family tend to be the historians, as it were. They're the documenters of the family, whether it's writing it down through photographs, this and that. And so I think it's all part of that willingness, or that wanting to document it. And then it's about creating and preserving that connection as well, because of showing it so that we can return to it someday. I know even we'll go to my mother-in-law's house, and she wants to bring down all the photos, not necessarily mine, but just all the ones I've taken over the years. And my kids they love to do that. They love to go through all the photos. And I'm so bad. It kicks me in the heart every time we do it, because it's like, how many of those are sitting on my hard drive?
Oh, I know.
Not printed.
I know. That should be like a movement, like in and of itself. Like I'm horrible too, so you're not alone.
I keep waiting until I have some money, because I want to do them in books. I like the idea of books and having them on the shelves. Like I've seen people, they just have like the whole volume or the year, they go year by year, and it's like, oh, that looks so good, I want to do that. But they're on my hard drive. I do keep them as the screensaver. on my computer. So it's not like nobody sees them, but at the same time, I do need to get them. I need to get tangible stuff. And that's definitely my recommendation to everyone else and myself, to print it. Okay.
Right.
So what do you not like about where you work? So we talked about what you do. What do you still find as a challenge?
Oh gosh. I don't, that's hard too. So I think it's just having confidence in what you're creating. So sometimes I think it's really hard to try something new or different, and share it. Not so, try it, like maybe this is good, I don't know. And then having the guts to put it out there. I feel like that's really, really difficult for me. And I think in the beginning I did that way more because I didn't hold back as much, I think, or I just didn't know. Well,
I think it maybe comes out the higher you get, the farther you have to fall, maybe. I'm not sure how that works, but I know that I do that before I have the shoot, especially if I haven't shot in a while. And then I'll get nervous and anxious, and I still have the confidence, but at the same time, it's just kind of just in the back, it's like, I'm going to screw this up.
It's a process for sure. Yeah. I think that's something else too, when you're looking at other people's images, you're not seeing what they're calling. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of, a lot of people, I don't know, the whole social media, showing the best
stuff. The highlight reel.
So I think it's such a helpful tool to know, other people have crap images too. Other people have out of focus images. You're shooting 50 images. Not everyone is in focus. Right. Everybody, maybe somebody out there can get to all 50 in focus. I can't. So, I have to tell myself that too, everybody else is going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just they're not telling you.
Okay, so here it comes now for our tell all.
Okay.
What is your biggest photography fail that you can remember? Because I know you can remember because it's sitting there. You just carry it with you, I'm sure.
So I honestly can't pinpoint a certain moment when I feel like, oh my God, I failed at that. But I really think it goes back to not taking any chances. When I look back and I'm like, why didn't I try to maybe teach at this conference? Or why didn't I try to get an image in this show? Or, it's things like that. I feel like I maybe fell that way where I'm not trying as hard to put my work out there. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm in a little bubble and I'll share on my Facebook page, on Instagram, but I'm not really pursuing, sharing all over the place and trying to get people to, resonate with my images. And I think maybe that's a fear, that goes back to the last question we were talking about.
Well, I think in today's culture too, it's the more visible you are, you're just the more vulnerable you are. And, and we all know that not everybody's going to like us. And we have our own thoughts, our own opinions, where we live in a country where we're entitled to that, but there's people who are ready to tear you down for it. And so I know me too, it's I really want to build Snap Maven up, and I have a lot of whys for why I want to do it. And at the same time, back in my head's going, there's going to be people out there. So, but I'm trying to tell them to just hush up for now, and we're just going to keep going.
Yeah. And I think, people are going to be negative no matter what. So, I'm going to it's been a hard, I don't feel like my mind has been able to focus as much on photography this year with the baby and things like that. So I'm trying to give myself a little grace, and then maybe next year will be a year where I try a little harder in that way. Because again, I feel like when I was earlier in my journey, I did try more, and I was like, oh yeah, I want people to see this. I want to try to get into an art show somewhere, try and do this. And
just so you know, you've got Julie out here in California going, oh my gosh, she's doing so much. How did she get it all done? I can't believe it. So, going back to that I got it done list, I think that you're kind of doing better than you think you are.
Yeah. And I think, everybody's their own worst critic, your hardest on yourself. So yeah, I think that those are probably true. And I am going to look into the reverse planning in my work life too, because I feel like that's a good way to look at that also. Because at the end of the day, the only things left on your list are the things you didn't get done. So I love that idea of creating a list of things you did. So I feel like that.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Julie Bogart at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I love her. I adore her. I haven't personally taken any of her classes yet, but I just like ate up her book, The Brave Writer, and not just because of how it applied to homeschooling, but how it applied to life.
Right.
And, just the idea of writing down what your kid was doing, that what they said, and just really curating your life in the idea of what has already happened, and what you've already accomplished, and looking at how the ripples of that occurred, how it affected other things, and you get way more done. You get done what you're supposed to get done on any given day. And if you didn't get it done, there's a reason why.
That's a good point. I think that's really good.
Anyway, so what does a perfect day look like for you?
A perfect day? Well, right now would be when I get to sleep in.
It gets better. Eventually they sleep till noon and you're like, get out of bed. Come on.
I know. I'm already going through that a little bit with my daughter. I'm like, I have to wake her up because we need to start school and so yeah. So I really feel like it's just spending a lot of time with my family, maybe, being able to take some pictures. But we really like going on walks together and, playing with the kids, riding their bikes. I feel like it's, just like kind of mundane stuff of the everyday, but just being together. And it's really that. And I'm lucky that we get to live those days a lot. So I feel like there's a lot of, perfect days in the mix with us. So
that's good. I know one of my weaknesses is I have a tendency to want to turn it all into a lesson.
Yeah.
Or turn it into a photo shoot, So just enjoying and just being present in the moment, especially my boys will be like, Mom, stop. So how do you think, I think you're already doing this, but I just want to ask this question anyway. How do you think photography can get our imperfect world closer to what your idea of a perfect world would be?
Wow. So I know you sent this question and I was like, how am I supposed to answer that? Like, it's such a deep question. But I think you're the only way, like that, the thing that instantly comes to mind, it goes back to the Gold Hope Project. And I feel like being able to tell our stories through photography is a huge thing. It just helps people relate so much more to other people, and especially, the kids and the families and everything that they're going through. It's so hard because I feel like a lot of the times their stories are so hard and they're so intense. And then you look at the pictures and they're so light and they're so happy. And I feel like there's such a contrast between them, but it really gives us a great reminder that the kids fighting these battles are amazing. And
it's the perfect name. It's the Gold Hope Project, because even in the midst of that darkness, there's that hope.
Exactly.
And we have to keep hanging on to that. I know when we were dealing with cancer, it for our family, and I think this is for most everybody, it never appears in isolation. Like there's this thing that happens, and then all of a sudden 20 other things happen at the same time, and you just think, heck, I can't deal with all of this. But at the same time, in the middle of that, there's hope. And you just hang on to that, you get it through, and then you end up with this amazing story at the end of that. And the story, when we know somebody else's story, that just makes that person more real, because we recognize ourselves in that story, even if we haven't experienced it. That's what makes reading novels so important, because wait a second, that character, that's not the only, someone thought those same things that I thought, and here I was thinking that I was the only being in the universe who had those thoughts. And because that's, you get kind of isolated that way. But when you can know someone else's story, they're real, and suddenly you want to fight for them, and not against them, or they're real, and you can't put them on a shelf and say that this is, that's just a story. It's not.
Exactly.
So again, to talk about September and Gold Hope, and tell everybody, I'll put the link under this interview to tell them go buy something.
Okay.
And then also too, I don't know if you're looking for any new photographers, but I know that there's a lot of kids who are sitting on a waiting list, aren't they, for Gold Hope?
Yeah, so we are lucky that we have over 600 volunteers right now, but there are certain areas I don't have as many volunteers. I know off the top of my head, Memphis, Tennessee is one that we need quite a few volunteers. St. Jude's Hospital is there. I think at the moment we might have 1 or 2 volunteers in that area, so that puts a lot on them when there are a lot of applications from a certain location. But we try our best not to keep any family waiting. So if we get an application for an area where there isn't a volunteer, we actively recruit until we can find someone to shoot their session. And sometimes that might take a week or 2 or 3, but luckily we've been able to photograph every family who who's wanted a session. So I think that that's amazing. It speaks a lot to the photography industry as well, because, you know, they might, like, a photographer gets a random email like, hey, will you volunteer with us and do this? And they're like, okay, you know. So I mean, I think that that's a really great thing. And but definitely, if you want to join, you know, we're always accepting applications, and it's the more the merrier, because, you know, we don't want to turn anyone away who will take a session.
Well, and just letting people know that this is here. So I need myself to get the word out. And I know that there are a couple of photographers in my area that are volunteers for you guys, which is great. And they're amazing photographers, by the way. But so the onus is on me again to make sure that people know about it. And I'm always sharing something or something about you guys, because I'm so, I respect the project so much. I think it's so important. So I did include this last thing. Is there anything you want to ask me about?
Oh my gosh, I should have given that more thought and giving you like a super deep, poignant.
Might be weird though if you tap into my brain, you're like, oh my god.
No, I have to say this was a lot of fun, and I loved talking with you more and getting a chance to share a little bit about my life.
And those who are watching it, this is kind of what you can expect. And it's just a conversation, kind of maybe a slightly guided conversation, but it's just going to be a conversation. It may get a little weird because I'm involved, but for the most part, this is, I think, how it's going to go. And I'm looking forward to this year of being able to do this with more photographers, because again, knowing each other's story, it's just so important, and it makes it real, it makes it human, makes you feel more human, and then you're suddenly I'm not alone.
Right.
And this everybody struggling with it. I guess it's okay. I guess it's normal to struggle. So, and that's be part of it. So I'm going to sign off, and I will be promoting the auction. I'm going to go. I haven't looked at it yet to see what you got. Because I'm in the market for a bargain always. So everybody else, go look at it and share it, and just do what you can, and look up the Gold Hope Project. Is it goldhopeproject.org?
.com.
Okay. We'll put links all over this, and we're going to get some money raised for this and for the research as well, because I know pediatric cancer research across the board is completely underfunded, and then when you have orphan or rare diseases, it's that much more so. So we really need to get as much as we can going towards these things, because in the end, it's going to benefit everybody. So
it will. It definitely will.
All right. Thank you so much for appearing with me today and being willing to be my guinea pig.
I loved it. It was a blast.